Hello and welcome to another episode of the Distil-Nation NZ podcast. My name is Tom. I'm joined as always by my good friend Cameron.
It is good to be back.
Yeah, and we are doing something similar to last year, but not really similar. It's a little bit earlier this year, and we just want people to be prepared for the holiday season. It's coming up. It's literally right around the corner. Black Friday is gone at this point. It's time for you to sort out your gifts for the spirit lover in your life, and we don't want you to fail at this task, right?
No.
And, I mean, you're spirit lovers who listen to this podcast anyway, but, you know, I don't know. It's hard to buy stuff for other people, so we thought we'll just give you some ideas. You can go at it.
We can throw some ideas out there and hopefully something sticks.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of good spirits coming around right now, whether you're into whiskey or gin or vodka or rum or liqueurs, whatever it is. There's something out there for everybody. We've just sort of put a spread on the table. This is all available at the Juniper Collective. Little plug. You can get it online. You can get it in the store. Come try some in the shop as well. We've got free samples of most everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm buying stuff for people this year that's going to be a little bit different. You know, something that looks different but also tastes good.
Yes.
And there's some new stuff around. I'm particularly looking, first of all, at some things at the end. Mm-hmm. You know, it's obviously if you're looking at those on video, there's two bottles that really stick out here right away. And this is sort of the thing. Some people call them gimmick bottles, right? You know, and the juice has got to be good inside it too, right? So as soon as I see a gimmick bottle, I get a little bit of a red flag going in my head. Is this going to be good? You know, I can tell you these are good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Bluff Gin won Best Gin at an Australian gin competition. They're officially the best gin in Australia.
Yeah.
Which,
New Zealand.
kudos to them. Is so good. So they've got a wonderful story behind these bottles. I'm sure we've talked about it on a previous podcast, that Japanese whalers would be going down into the Fovo Strait, bottom of New Zealand. They would be laying out illegal nets, and local bluffies would head out there and cut away the glass buoys that were holding up their nets and kind of proudly hang those glass buoys on their fence as like almost, you know, trophies that they have gone out, hunted and won. So yes, it is a good gin. I also want to point out for watchers, I am wearing my Bluff Distillery t-shirt. When we went to the event and we saw the boys there with all of their Bluff Distillery merch, straight away I thought, that's top merch. I love the look that they have gone for. So this one, it's one of the flat oyster
knives.
Oyster knives.
Yeah.
But they've also got a whale tail. They've got something on there as well. So why not, if you are considering that, they've got hoodies, t-shirts, caps. I would have a look at them because I think they have got some really cool merch.
They do.
As well as a very internationally good recognised gin.
Yeah, it's been hugely popular in the shop, that gin, not only for the bottle, but it's actually just really tasty.
You'd buy it once for the interesting bottle, but people come back and they buy it again and again.
Yeah.
It's very good
and
gin.
I've seen people now reusing the bottles too. They'll put a candlestick in the top of it, and then it looks really cool once you start, you know, using the candle on top. But you know, the wax sort of drips down onto it and stuff. So you can turn it into a light, you know, feature and stuff like that. So that's really cool.
Right.
Highly recommend.
So Greytown Fireside Gin.
Greytown gins. This is really fun. Now these guys have made about 24 different types of gin, like something like that. There's a lot of their gins. So Fireside is only one of many.
Is this meant to be like a petrol can or something?
It's like a little tin can, you know? It's almost like the gin in a tin, you know, they used to make from the UK and stuff. This is the small size. We sell the full-size ones that are 700 mils at the shop. And I got to tell you, just open the cap. Just turn the cap. Like, it is...
It's not a cork. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that?
I am okay in this case.
Okay.
Because just feel it. It is so satisfying to my soul, that screw cap. That stainless steel on stainless steel. It just is so tactile.
I've listened to marketers talk, and they use this example of if you remember, and I'm aware I'm a little bit older than you, your Walkmans.
Yeah.
And there was one company, it must have been Sony, so that when you hit the eject button and then the little thing that held your cassette tape came up, there was a really nice click and a movement, and that others didn't have the same kind of heft and weight to them that when you hit the click. So clearly they'd spent money on this tiny little thing, but it was just a really small thing that added a measure of... You just felt it and you were like, no, this is quality. This is really... And yeah, it doesn't... Even just unscrewing it, screwing it back on, that's a cap, and it just... I can't put a finger on why. There's no rational basis behind it, but it just feels like a quality cap.
It does,
you know?
right? Yeah. You don't want to throw this away.
No.
Like, and it is stainless steel. They're cool little tins, little flasks sort of thing. That's a cool gift, I think. Anybody who gets that is going to enjoy it. And there's so many of them. We only carry 3 of them in the shop right now because there's just too many of them to carry all of them right now. But the 3 that we have are very different to each other. They're all part of the same series. I think there's Moonglow, Fireside, and Frostbite, I think. So there's 3 very different gins, but in the same sort of category. Come try that. It's amazing. Even if you don't try it, it's gin in a tin. It is super cool. I mean, it's awesome. There is a gin called Gin in a Tin from the UK as well. Oh. Yeah, it's in and it looks like a petrol sort of design on it. But
I don't think I've tried this one. I think I'm going to.
Go for it. Yeah.
All right. Well, you can give yourself a plug right here because I have brought up the topic of merch.
Yeah.
And I'm proudly repping my Bluff Distillery merch. There's also another funny anecdote on a previous episode where I just happened to be wearing my Waiheke Whiskey t-shirt and then somehow ended up getting roped into to pour some Waiheke Whiskey at a festival day. So there's some fun ways that you can show your support for a local distillery, or if go out, actually buy something that somebody's going to enjoy for perhaps longer than a bottle might remain on the shelf, maybe.
Yeah.
But here at Creek has got its fair share of merch as well.
Yeah, we've got t-shirts. We got a fair few designs, especially for the moonshines. They're kind of fun moonshine designs, as well as the Moose Lake artwork. I've actually put that on a t-shirt as well because it's a really cool artwork with the moose. And it doesn't actually say gin on the t-shirt. It just says Herrick Creek, Moose Lake. So it's, you're not walking around necessarily advertising for alcohol. And it's just kind of a nice shirt. They're all available on the website and only on our website. But I was also going to say for gin, because, maybe not everyone wants to go and splash $100 on a bottle of gin for a mate,
And there are... Especially if you are buying for somebody and you want to get them something new that they haven't tried before, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to go out and get them a big bottle when you perhaps aren't 100% sure, what other options are there?
Well, there's always little bottles, right? There are always some smaller bottles around, but there's not always the selection in them and not always the newer stuff. So I'm thinking tonics are a really cool way, because there are some good New Zealand made tonics, such as Alchemy and Tonic. And right now in the shop, we've got these little, I think they're about 150 mils. They're about enough for like one good gin and tonic, maybe 2, depending on, how much is in your glass. But there's so many flavors. I think there's like 8 flavors of these tonics, and there's like jalapeno and pineapple is one of them, ginger and something in another one, and they're all so good. There's a huge range of them, so that's a really cool idea for somebody who want to get them something. Get them an assortment of little tonics. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
especially coming into summer.
They might not want a gin, or that they like gin, but you don't know which one. Say, hey, here's an assortment of tonics for your regular gin. Have some fun,
Just spice it up
a bit, yeah.
Sticking on the theme of little bottles, yep, you've got heaps of smaller bottles that you can get from the shop, but if we're going even smaller and perhaps a greater selection, do you have something for that spirit lover?
I'm not picking up what
You're
you're
not-
putting
you're
down.
Weren't you going to create sample packs?
Oh yeah, well, the advent calendar.
The advent
yes.
calendar.
I'm not.
I worked on this.
To be fair, I don't sleep anymore with 2 kids.
Right. Okay.
And three businesses. So, advent calendars, yeah, they're around. I'm not sure what the status of them is as of the release of this podcast. They should be around still. We got 12 New Zealand gins in a pack. We've bottled them up ourselves into these little, I want to say 50 ml bottles, and you've got each day you pick a different one, and it'll tell you which gin you've got on there, and that is a really cool gift for somebody. Instead of their usual cheap chocolate from the warehouse, you can have a little bit of gin every day.
A little bit of gin, and one, it's supporting local, and two, this is great because from the outset, you don't know what gins are going to be in there. If I'm coming in as a customer...
You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I might find something that I love. I might find something that I don't love. But when you're only buying it in the 50 ml bottles, if I get a 50 ml bottle and I don't like it, well...
And I've curated it all myself, and
Okay.
I can tell you that it's not just like your bare basic stuff. It is really niche. There's some, ones you would have heard of before here and there, but there's some good niche stuff as well that you would, might not have tried yet, or it might be a brand you've tried before, but maybe a different release from them and stuff like that. So, I think it's a really cool release.
Are you just doing the gins?
Just the gins this
Okay.
year. Yeah. Now, the other thing I was going to say, too, for the gin lover is glassware. Now, glassware is a bit tricky.
Yes.
It's a bit tricky, right? If you know the person really well, you can get them really something really cool. But there are some ones that I think that could probably appeal to anybody, as we have these big goblets. And I've been calling them the King's Goblet. It's like this big, heavy crystal gin goblet. But like when you pick it up, I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, it's a gin goblet. But as soon as you pick it up, you feel like royalty. And I don't care who you are, if you're man, woman, doesn't matter. You feel good when you pick up this gin goblet.
It's just a goblet that feels good to hold.
It's hefty,
Right.
It's got a heft to it, and I got to say that feeling, it's like the cap. It's a feeling. It just is really cool. So something like that could be for somebody, but you got to be really careful with glassware, of course,
Sure.
because if you just go to the shop and pick up one of these bog standard, tumblers, it's
What is the science behind the gin goblet? Why would you drink a gin and tonic out of one of these goblets?
I wish I was the right person to ask that question.
man.
But, I mean, we know from using a Glencairn glass that
Yep.
the science is there, right? The idea is you have a big bulb at the bottom that's going to hold any sort of heavy sort of oils and smells down at the bottom there. And as you come up to this smaller tip, you're going to get more of those sweeter, beautiful, fruity sort of smells. And it sort of concentrates what you want to get out of that glass at the top. And the heavier stuff, which is usually the nastier stuff, will stay in the glass. You don't need to smell that, right? So that's typically the science behind them.
Also, if you have got holding just a regular kind of tumbler,
Yeah.
it's going to, especially in summer, it's going to warm up with the heat of your hand. Having a nice stem on the goblet means that you can be holding that. And these gin goblets aren't like a Glencairn glass, which are kind of made for just a wee bit of a pour. Those ones, you can put your ice in there. You can put a healthy pour of gin and tonic and a garnish of some description. It's not just a small nosing. It's a full-on enjoying glass.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other problem, if you get someone just a regular tumbler, like this one, for example, which actually is an inverted bell shape, might not help most spirits come out of that. That's probably going to give you a lot of bad fusel oils and whatnot. So, yeah, talk to your local spirits expert. They'll help you out. They'll help you find something. But I mean, we're on the table of gin. We've got this other one up here. I'll just mention this one quickly. Clarity from up in Tauranga. I'm a big fan of them. They've got a dry gin, a botanical gin from, they call it 2023, and a Navy strength gin. Really well priced at I think it's like $65 for a full-size bottle.
Okay.
And it's amazing gin. We've got bottles open all the time of that. the 2023 one has probably been the most popular one so far. It's a green label. Beautiful bottles, unique bottle, beautiful label. Yeah, good little story they've got going on up there. They're making that all themselves. And yeah, I'm a big fan of them. So if you want to try something new from the North Island, give Clarity a try. Oh, he's popped it.
Oh, that does. It just says dry.
Yeah, and it's got all the botanicals, pictured on the back, which is quite unique. Some people have bought it just because you never actually get to see what the botanicals look like.
You're what is an angelica root when it's at home? And
if you're not a botanist, you'd never know.
No, but right here on the back, I can see a picture of an angelica root. So there we are.
So they all have that on the back, which is quite cool.
That smells lovely.
So it doesn't, you don't have to go spend $100 and more, on a gin. You can get a good gin for less for sure, and it's nice and local still. So
perfect. We'll take a very quick pivot. That if you are wanting to gift something to what do you give the whiskey lover who has everything? And if you are looking at their collection and you think, well, I don't want to buy them another bottle because they've got so many unopened bottles already, Neve Candles, based here in Christchurch, have partnered with Divergence to create a whiskey-scented candle. And I will tell you right now, I have been gifted a fair share of, he likes whiskey, he'll like this. And there are whiskey-scented things and whiskey-flavoured things that aren't whiskey. And some of them are okay, and some of them just smell like cheap, nasty, like this just makes me smell like a day after of a bar. Why would I do that? That is not the case for Neve Candles. That is actually a really...
I'm going to pause for a sec, because at the beginning of this session that we came in, you told me, Tom, make sure your phone is on Do Not Disturb, because of one of the episodes... It was going off, ping, ping, ping. And that's not my phone, everyone.
No, it was mine. Apologies.
That's all right. It's all right. We're just having a chat. It's good fun. Who cares?
Yes. So Neve Candles. That was...
They are, yeah, I have... Actually, they've came in and we smelt them once, and it's really nice.
No, quality candles. Yeah. Really nice.
The other... I wanted to joke about some of the funnier things that people get, the spirits lovers.
Yes.
What are the ones that are so stereotypical that you just don't want to get them anymore? What's number one on the list?
Well, one of those, which relates to that earlier story, was I got given a whiskey-scented aftershave, which sounds good in theory, but when I put it on, it smelled like I was coming off a 3-day bender, which is usually not the kind of image that you want to portray when you are meeting people in public.
And not long ago, I had a shirt that didn't smell very good at home, and my wife said, "Oh, you better go change this shirt and put some cologne on." And, "Oh, don't worry about it. I've got this whiskey over here." So I put the whiskey on my chest, and she's like, "You just smell like a drunk now." And I'm like, "Oh, that's fair. Yeah."
Yeah.
So I had to have a shower after that.
Yeah.
What else is one of those stereotypical things you should not buy?
Whiskey rocks.
Yeah.
I do not like whiskey rocks.
No.
If you're gonna add ice, add ice. But this whole I want to cool it down, but I don't want to dilute it. I personally don't get it.
No.
So if you can at all help it, avoid buying whiskey rocks. Instead of whiskey rocks, try and find a really large, and I do mean large, ice mold.
Yes.
So do something along those kinds of lines. That if you can...
like a sphere or like a big cube. Yeah.
Really big sphere, big cube, so that it's not a case of I'm just going to put a whole bunch of little regular-sized ice cubes in there. It's actually... These larger ones perform the same kind of role as the whiskey rocks, in that one really large ice cube actually stays colder for longer, so you're going to get that chill factor without getting the same kind of dilution that you're going to get with a whole bunch of smaller ice cubes. So instead of whiskey rocks, try and find a really fat ice tray or
Yeah,
something
they're usually silicon or something like that. Yeah, and it's just don't think that ice is bad. Ice is good. Ice is good in a whiskey. To make a whiskey just cold or a spirit just cold, you're actually just sort of limiting what you can smell and taste in that spirit. So, but when you actually put it cold and then dilute it a bit, you're actually opening it up a bit, and you're going to experience different things with it. So the ice is the way to go, I think.
Absolutely.
You've done well. I've got one.
Yep.
A flask. I don't think anyone really needs a flask, especially if it's one of the cheap ones. And you can you can just tell when you open them, they're just cheap,
It's not the feeling.
It's not like that. No. You can just feel they're tinny, and then you can almost sometimes smell them. They're almost metallic-y on the inside, because a lot of these flasks actually just have like a bunch of manufactured oils inside and stuff, and they actually will end up going rusty. They're just not stainless and stuff, and unless it's a really good quality, high class sort of, I hate to say that, but really high quality flask, I would say leave the flask off.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I want to round it off with decanters. Now, when
was the last time you decanted something?
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is that so? Well, really quick history lesson. So back in like 200 odd years ago, whiskey came in bottles, and the cork was the same as you would find the cork in a wine bottle today. So once you had taken that cork out, you weren't able to put the cork back in again. And so if your ancestors came from the Western Highlands like mine, there was a tradition of, well, if you've pulled the cork out of the whiskey bottle, you then threw the cork on the fire because you made sure that you were going to finish that bottle responsibly with friends. So that was that tradition. But if you were among the upper classes, perhaps you weren't the kind that was going to open up a bottle of whiskey or spirits and then consume that whole bottle in one sitting. So that's why we have the decanter. That was so that when you uncorked the bottle, you then were able to put it into something to save for later. But then we get the arrival of the resealable cork. This one here is a synthetic one from Clarity. So these have been around for about 100 years or so. My brother-in-law was gifted a very nice decanter. Looks pretty, looks wonderful. He then put some whiskey in it, and I think because it was such a good-looking decanter, he then had it out and displayed where maybe it was receiving some direct sunlight, and maybe because the seal on the decanter wasn't quite as tight as what he hoped it would be, he went back a wee bit later and discovered that the vast majority of his whiskey had evaporated out. So decanters are good in theory, but unless you are somebody that will drop a bottle and then break the cap off of a table, it's easy to do, so I'm told. Unless you are likely to do that, these bottles are all really beautiful and they look nice and displayed and everything else like that. So
now, on that note, though, if you can find someone a beautiful bottle, maybe not a decanter, but maybe, I don't know, some sort of beautiful bottle that is a nice full-size bottle that maybe they can put their own label on, you could be making somebody an infinity bottle for future use, which is basically a decanter, isn't it? But an infinity bottle, this is something I think I talked to you about a few years ago. I think I'm on to like 6 or 7 years on mine now, which is really cool. I've actually got a book that I actually put it on Amazon. It is available. Quick plug. But I think I've got room for 1,000 whiskeys or something in there. And I just write down, I write the percentage and I write the date that it went into it. And basically you just put the last, dram, whatever you want to put into the bottle. You put that into your infinity bottle. And now whenever you're going to drink from that bottle, you're going to always have a little bit of that whiskey, in theory, whenever you have a drink. So, you can make these, you can craft them however you want them. I've actually got two. I've got one that's unpeated, and I've got a peated one. The peated one is much lower, and it's much younger. But the other one has got all sorts of whiskeys, from over the years, including some like really rare ones, like the 20-year-old Michter's pour from Dramfest. I actually kept the smallest bit to put into that just because I knew I had to have that in my infinity bottle to remember it. And it's just one of those things that someday I hope to pass on to my children, Or maybe I'll split it into two and give it to both of them, and then they can keep it going. And it's almost an heirloom at that point. And I think that's a pretty cool gift if you can set someone up with a really nice bottle.
Yes.
Maybe a little kit of some sort, maybe a journal, an empty journal.
Yeah, empty journal.
Actually, and even not an infinity bottle, empty journal for spirits is great.
Yeah, empty bottle for notes. Start practicing writing your tasting notes or filling your own infinity bottle. Yeah.
Yeah. What else have we got on this list?
Cocktail kits.
Oh, yep.
Now, this, I feel, is one... Let's just say there are kits and there are kits, right? And some of them are quite cheap and might break after 2 uses, and then others are going to be a bit more robust, sturdier, and up for...
So you're talking like a shaker and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, and yeah, I do. So I think you'd want to know that person and know that they would actually use it. And I think having a good quality shaker, maybe a muddler in there as well, a nice mixing spoon, something for measuring out your pours as well. You don't need to go fancy with all of the bells and whistles, but a couple of really nice quality items that might help you become more of a home bartender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think if you look for the lower quality items of it, and if you know what they've already got and whatnot, that's probably okay. The other one is probably those like garnish cocktail kits, that you can find sometimes. I see them in the supermarket. You can buy it in like a jar, and it might have some dried fruit and like a packet of something and like a little instruction to make like one cocktail sort of thing. Have you ever seen those?
Yes, yeah.
I don't think that's a way to do it. I think, it's... You could just make them a cocktail one day when they come to your house, really.
Yeah. No, I thought you were talking about the pre-made with like all of the powder, and it's just telling you to add in a, hey, here's an instant daiquiri if you just pour in some white rum. And I've never gone in for those because I don't quite know how it's going to turn out.
We sound a bit pretentious, son.
Yeah, a wee bit. A wee bit.
That's all right. But this is the thing, like we are spirits lovers, and we're just saying, I don't know if we'd really want to find that.
I went into a liquor store and bought bitters, and there was another guy in the store, and he heard me talking to the guy behind the counter. The bottles were behind the counter, and I said, "Hello, I would like that bottle of chocolate bitters, please." And he looked at me like, what planet are you from? And he even said, as I was walking out the shop, he stopped me and he said, "Excuse me, why would you buy chocolate bitters?" And I said, "Oh, I like to make an old fashioned, and I've got a bottle of Angostura, but this is a different spin." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Oh, well, old fashioned is whiskey, a little bit of simple syrup or sugar, and then you add bitters of some kind. And so having a chocolate flavored bitters is just throwing a different spin on it." And then he gave me that look that said, "You add things to your whiskey?"
I'm just picturing like Colonel Sanders, like, "You say what? You say what now? What now, son?"
I mean, we're in Christchurch, but I mean, yeah, point kind of stands. He looked at me like I was certainly crazy talk. So yes, there are lots of different types of flavors of bitters available, and so if it's a whiskey lover in your life that makes an old fashioned, finding some kind of weird and wonderful flavored bitters that's going to an old fashioned made with Angostura bitters versus made with chocolate bitters versus here's one I saw. I think it was celery and salt flavored bitters.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting.
You could have the exact same whiskey and the exact same simple syrup and just 3 drops of each of those different bitters, and you've got a drastically different cocktail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. There also is some New Zealand bitters around. I know Elemental, the people who make Roots Gin, they do a few bitters
Yes.
if you can find them around.
Now, I helped myself to the
Yep.
the lovely Greytown gin in a tin, but other than that, what are we going to have?
I thought I would. I'm just staring at this and really wanting to get into it. So
Okay.
Ald Distillery. We've talked about Ald a few times before on the podcast. They are a farm distillery down in. Oh, come on the mic, Tom. There we go.
Now, if you were wondering about the sound of that, it's because it is a smaller bottle. So smaller bottle, smaller pop.
And so they've only released these in little 200 ml bottles, but this is their first release of an aged whiskey from Ald, and it's part of their farm centenary, the 100 years that they've owned the farm and the family, and it is an oat whiskey, which is really cool. Totally different to what you would usually find around the place. 44%, and we've got these in the shop there in the gift box and everything like that, so it's quite cool.
That is light and creamy.
That's the thing with oats is it's got a lot of it makes for a really easy sipping sort of spirit, but it is a different smell, isn't it?
It is. You can tell it's not a barley.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There is a word. It's almost. Welcome to Two Men Smelling Whiskey. I'm your host, Tom.
It's not exactly the most scintillating conversation. Yeah, there's something honeyed, maybe.
Like spiced orange or something like
Ooh.
that. That's kind of what I'm kind of getting, like a spiced citrus.
But very light.
Yeah, very light.
And so this is why oat whiskey is used a lot in blending, because it adds quite a bit of it adds a bit more of the texture, but it doesn't kind of it adds subtle flavors. It's not going to be something that overpowers in your blend.
That first sip I've just had, totally different to most whiskeys. It is thick. It is a touch sweet, almost a porridge sweet. Now maybe that's in my head because it's oats, but like, it's like creamy. Yeah, there's a touch of spice to it, and then it finishes almost dry, but it still lingers with the flavor. That is weird and cool, and I like it.
It's very different. It is very different.
So
indeed.
this is a fun one. If you want to
That
have
is a
somebody with
big fun
something different, this would be a good one. There's not many oat whiskies in the world, really. You know,
No, because most of the oat whiskey produced is going into blends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like if you're gonna go to the States, you're gonna find maybe some oats used in a very small percent of a bourbon here and there. You know, a 4 or 5 grain bourbon, you might find some oat. But oats are hard to mash, but they don't yield very good for alcohol. But they do give a lot of mouth flavor. Mouthfeel is sort of their big pull for everybody. Well done to Ald. Well done to Tony and Rob. It's awesome.
That is very nice.
So little things like that with whiskey releases. Talk to your local liquor store because there might be something new and different and local that you might not have heard of. I mean, it's not like they had a huge release on this. You know, it's been pretty quiet. The release for it, you know, they just sort of reached out and said like, hey, we're quietly releasing this centenary release. Like we weren't going to release any for another couple of years, but we thought we got to celebrate the 100 year that the family's owned the farm. So we thought let's go for it. So, and this is the first release of whiskey from them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aged.
Yeah. That's not White Dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is cool. And it's 5 years old. So, yeah. On that note, too, I think Waiheke I've put on the table, they've actually got, and I really wanted to have another release here. By the time this comes out, it will definitely be around. They've got the Oak and Rye and Oak and Honey, which are American mash bills
Oh.
That's available now. That's available at the Juniper Collective. They've also got the Fairlight blended whiskey.
Fairlight. Yes, that one I knew about.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the other two.
Really affordable for Fairlight as well. It's like $120, I think. And that's the first. That's the first one that I know of that's a blended New Zealand whiskey. Which is, I think, a little bit of peated stock and unpeated stock. So Waiheke, they've just got a ton of releases. If you want to go with something inexpensive like that, or up to their $500-$600, which I can't remember which one. Bog Monster. There's another one too that they've got still that's up there, and there's everything in between. Moss, probably one of my favorite. Series 2, that's a really nice peated one. There you go. I'm really excited to try the oak and rye though. I got to say, as somebody who makes that mash bill, I'm very excited to see what they've come up with for that. And they've also got a cinnamon one, like a fireball, and they're even doing a gin and vodka as well. They're making it all from scratch. There's not under the Waiheke whiskey name. I think it's under the Hiki brand, but
which is the bar that they own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now, what if you are one of those people that loves to gift experiences rather than things? What could they do, Tom?
Well, let me plug you this. You could come.
What was that?
I don't know. I'm
If you're testing new catchphrases, that wasn't one of them.
Actually, one of my best ones, if I might just go off topic for a bit. You know how sometimes, have you ever watched Parks and Recreation?
Many times.
You know the character Jam?
Jeremy Jam.
Jeremy Jam, and he always goes, "You've been jammed."
Yep.
And I was like, I could come up with something like that. And so now I've got, "You've been finished."
Oh, I see, Tom.
But it doesn't
yeah.
really...
Needs work.
Yeah.
Needs
But anyway.
work. Okay.
If you want an experience, we've got tasting experiences at the Juniper Collective. You need 5 people to do a private one, but you can also just give them a gift card or something like that as well. In the future, we might actually do same-day tastings and stuff as well, so keep an eye on that. Your gift cards will be fine for something like that as well, but you can book that all on the website. It's all done there. Now, is there anything else that we could do for experiences around?
Well, I think if you are going away over the holidays and you're planning your trip, do a wee Google search to see what distilleries are in the area.
Yeah.
So, for example, I think that was the one that we were going from Dunedin and we were heading through to Central Otago. And we had a stop off in Geraldine. And we had a couple of places that we could have stopped in and around that area. But I specifically said, no, I want to stay in Geraldine. 1, Geraldine's a lovely place to stay. 2, I knew that Humdinger Distillery was in the area. And so I made sure to pop in, have a tour, walked out with a couple of bottles. So over the summer, if you can... look to see what distilleries are in the area. Are they going to be open?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a tour that they can do? Because actually getting in and having that experience of talking to somebody who works there, going through the distillery, having a nice bit of a chat and a tasting at the end, those are really, really fun ways to support local, but also find a bit more about the story behind the bottle.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Spirits Workshop here in Christchurch. We've got Pokeno up north. We've got Southward in Wellington. You've got Reefton over on the west coast. You've got Cardrona down south, and so many other ones all around the country. So those are just to name a few, you know.
And I know that there are others like, for example, Thompson and 1919 don't offer regular tours that you can just drop in for. But this time of year, if you keep an eye on their Facebook page, they do announce, hey, we're doing a special tasting and tour open day. So those would be ones to look out for. And if you are planning a trip to Auckland, keep an eye out to see when they do announce those dates, because it would almost certainly be worth kind of planning a wider trip in and around those.
Yes, absolutely. And then to keep on this sort of idea of, we've got one more on the table anyway. I point out the rum, Last Light rum. Really, I'm a big fan of these rums. They're quite amazing. Basically, the guy started making it, and he didn't, he was just going to kind of sell it off to somebody else, and then the stock. And one of his mates said, "Actually, mate, this is too good," and they were luckily in marketing and helped him sort of set up a brand, and it's great stuff. Some of the best rum I've ever tried. Last Light. This to say though that if you know that you have a friend and they like rum, and they maybe they don't, you don't know what they like, there's no harm in giving them something new in the category. Your local spirits experts at your local spirits shop will know best, to help you guide on, what's a good purchase and what's, maybe a bit more riskier. But I would have almost no problem sending this to a friend who I knew liked rum. I'd be like,
I think this one here that I got to try at your rum day, the Last Light cask strength 100% pot still, I think that one may well have been my favorite.
That was my favorite. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, and it's the same with whiskey, if you know they're into whiskey, maybe they've never been introduced to a New Zealand whiskey before. Pocono Origin, everyone.
Bang.
Get them a bottle of that. They'll love it.
Yeah, and with the awards that they are picking up around the world for that, it's so many people can't be wrong.
It's well priced too.
Yes.
Damn good whiskey.
My favourite remains the Pocono Discovery, which is their red wine one, which I was surprised to hear. I think it was something to do with availability. But anyway, the Discovery, their red wine, isn't one that is doing the rounds internationally. That's largely just for local consumers here.
Right.
So that would be one that, of theirs, that one is my favorite.
Yep. And I think that they're probably the best way to get into New Zealand spirits. So if you know somebody who's a Scotch drinker and you want to just test their waters a bit, get them a Pocono, a bottle of Pocono. Pocono.
That's got the,
Pocono.
Yeah.
How do you say that fast though? Say it fast.
Pocono.
Come on.
Well, hey, this isn't my area of expertise. I'm
if you don't know the history behind that, I was torn apart on TikTok one day for saying that incorrectly, but that's around. I'm here to learn. I want to learn.
Yeah,
so that's fine. Anything else we want to add to our lovely gift guide?
Holiday gift guide. So, yes. So you are doing the advent calendars, which is great. But are you doing any other gift boxes?
We do gift boxes. You can make your own sort of box if you like. You come into the shop, you just pick whatever you want. We'll help you make it. Usually people will pick a gin and a tonic. Maybe you can add a glass or something like that into it. And we've got nice little boxes, set it all up for you nicely, and off you go. So that's an easy way to do a gift for somebody. And then there's always little tasting packs from the distilleries as well, like 3-pack of this or a 5 little pack of this or something like that. So those are easy gifts, and I can't stress enough to go support your local. There's a lot of big franchises and stuff for liquor in the country and stuff, but there's also a lot of good independent liquor stores around. Not just my own. There are there are a lot of good little guys working really hard to provide a quality experience for you. And those guys, I think, deserve your business. I can think of a few off the top of my head. Cons in Auckland, the Whitford merchants in Whitford outside of Auckland. Down south in Wanaka, there's one. I can't remember the name. I'm very sorry, but they're all over the place. Like, just go find your local. Whiskey galore. There you go. Glengarry's great. Vino Fino here in Christchurch as well. They don't do just wine; they do all sorts. And I'm sure there's many other around the country.
Another incomplete list.
A very incomplete list, no doubt. But yeah, I think that's a good way. You can't go wrong with a gift card as well. Let them pick their own.
Yes, absolutely. Because most of these shops, if you, as I did very recently for a friend's birthday, and I knew he liked gin. Rather than just buying him the bottle, I brought him into Juniper Collective. I introduced him to Elena. Elena took him walking around the shelves. There were a couple of open bottles at the sample table. Tried a couple of those, then said, okay, of these ones, I really like that one. And I said, easy done, and I bought the bottle for him and we walked out. So more than just gifting him a bottle now that I know that he will like, it was also just the experience of going on and trying a couple of things, seeing all of these options available, getting excited. It was an experience. And so, at these independent stores, you're far more likely to get an experience like that, and that actually become part of the present and part of what he's going to remember about his birthday celebrations there.
And here's what I do: if you want to give them a budget sort of thing, because you don't want them to go in and pick the most expensive bottle on the shelf, right? Yeah. Here's what I would do: I'd go in ahead of time, buy a gift card, right? Take it with you, come back with your friend, and as you're walking in the store, give them the gift card. Merry Christmas, or whatever it is. Here you go. Happy birthday. There's a gift card for you. Let's have a look around. And then you get to experience that together still. They can pick out what they want. They know that what their budget is, but they can also, if they want to go for the more expensive thing, then they can. They've just got a gift card to put towards it. So that's how I would go about it.
That's a good thought.
Yeah. And then you get to experience it together. You're not just giving it to them randomly. You could just say, come with me. I've got a gift card for you. We'll go sometime and we'll pick out a bottle together.
Go shopping together.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's, if you know the person well enough, you feel comfortable enough going out, getting them a bottle, and gifting them an entire full-sized bottle, full speed to you, go for it. Yep. But if you if you're looking at their cabinet and thinking, if I give this to you, are you even going to get around to opening it soon? Which is a legitimate question that I occasionally ask of myself. These are hopefully between gift cards, tasting experiences, maybe some bitters or some tonics, definitely the merch. Or there are heaps of the advent calendar boxes, all of these different types of gifts available so that you can show your appreciation for the spirit lover in your life, but maybe something a wee bit different that's going to be a bit more, I don't know, just something that was just going to delight them differently.
Do you sell gift cards at Discovering Drams?
No.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
That's an experience.
I mean, that's a very nice way of putting that.
Yeah.
But,
anyway, that's something to think about. Herrick Creek, they sell gift cards. HerrickCreek.co.nz, Juniper Collective, we sell gift cards, and all the spirits you've seen today that we talk about, we sell them all. I'm going to do the plugs because, sorry, but that's us, sorry, not sorry. To connect with us, if you have questions, if you have an idea, if you have anything you want to know or do or say, get in touch. Distil-NationNZ@gmail.com, at Distil-NationNZ on all socials. Distil-Nation.nz is our website.
Because if you are doing something cool, if you are doing something different that you think should be featured in our next gift guide section, if you're a spirits producer that's got a really cool story that you want others to know about, we'd love to hear from you. And so get in touch, because we are already thinking ahead for 2025, continuing on with season 3. We've got a few episodes already recorded in the can, but looking ahead for the rest of the year, we know that there are plenty more stories to be told, and we would love to tell yours.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.